Hey everybody, so I just wanted to jump on here today to give you my book review for The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. This is actually, I believe it was Ruth Ware's second novel. I actually read the very first novel she put out, In a Dark, Dark Wood, a couple years ago. And I remember not really loving that book. I remember enjoying bits and pieces of it. But ultimately I thought there were some, pacing issues and some character issues, some narrative things that I just didn't like about it. So I kind of waited a little while until I picked up another Ruth Ware book until this one. So now this is the second one that I've read by her. And to be completely honest, I had the exact same issues as I did with her first novel, which was pacing, character issues, and also the narrator of this one, which I'll get into in a minute, and how I felt about that. A little bit of overview for you just in terms of this book and what it's about. It is about a young travel journalist named Laura Blacklock, aka Lo, who gets the opportunity to aboard this cruise liner, which is more like a really large yacht. So it's very private, very intimate, and just do some journalism work and networking and actually try to, push her career a little more forward. And after the event that she kind of witnesses in the beginning of this book, this is what she's hoping for as a much needed break, as she unfortunately was traumatized by a burglary that happens very early into this book. So she boards this boat. She's trying to get, things in order, and very quickly things start to happen, which she can't be too sure if it did or if it didn't. But she is very adamant that it did happen. And what that is that she feels she heard a woman get murdered. She didn't actually see anything, but she is very, very clear that she heard a woman murdered. And the only thing that she did witness was blood smeared on glass. So with that little bit of knowledge, with hearing a woman scream and hearing somebody splash into the ocean, she's very convinced that someone was just killed right next door to her. Of course, like every setup for a lot of these novels, and this is the thing, that this makes this no different than any other book that you've probably read with a similar concept, like The Woman in the Window. The Woman. There's always a book called The Woman or The Girl on the Train. There's always a character who's in peril that's always mixing alcohol and pills, and somehow somebody gets killed in the midst of all that happening. So this is the exact same formula as those books, just not as good, and I'll explain in just a moment. I struggled very much with this book, you guys. This was a very challenging read, and not challenging because it's hard to make out. You can see everything coming pretty much a mile away. But it just felt so derivative. It felt like a complete rehash of everything we've already read before. And of course, this premise on a boat with a murder, you're probably thinking Agatha Christie vibes, which is probably a lot of the takeaway that people got when reading this. I did feel like this just kind of copied and pasted a lot of things we've already seen, a lot of formulas that we've already read. And because of that, I did not really like this book that much. It isn't to say that I completely disliked it, but I certainly did not love this book at all. I don't think I would ever read it again, and I'm not sure I would actually recommend it. It would be very, very mild, but let me explain. The character, the narrator of this, Lo, that we read this from the entire way, is one of the most just frustrating characters, frustrating narrators I've read in a long time. With the girl on the train, it wasn't so much that she was also the best narrator, but I think maybe the writing was better in that book. And I actually enjoyed that book a lot more, that I was able to kind of just, go along with that. And I appreciated the way Paula Hawkins kind of constructed things. So just by comparison, I think Ruth Ware, her writing is not as strong as another author. Plus, I think this writing is a little all over the place. The way the character is, explaining things or feeling things, it's just so thrown at you. Everything is such a mess. And it was starting to get on my nerves. It was annoying to see how everything was just an issue to her. I'm not saying that her feelings aren't valid, because of course she's trying to convince people that she heard someone get murdered. So there's a lot of feelings, a lot of tension. She also deals with panic attacks, anxiety, depression. She's on medication. She's drinking. It's like there's a lot of things that factor into the way she's reacting. So I understand. But it was just like we're not really learning anything different than we may have read somewhere else. And the twists and turns, there's a few that I thought were okay. Those were interesting, but it was nothing like, oh my God, outstanding. And by the way, the book continues to just get toward the end. Once we actually reveal who's behind all of this, it was sort of lackluster. I will admit I didn't really see that turn or twist coming, but once it was revealed, I wasn't like, but I wasn't also like, I was just kind of torn on that. And the last thing I want to say on this, without really giving anything away, is that the way the book concludes is very quick and rushed and a little muddled and still just quite convoluted, in my opinion. I felt like there were things that were explained that were unnecessary, or I was curious as to why they were even thrown out there in the first place, which then, creates questions. So I'm just still kind of taken back by the way this book decided to wrap itself up. I felt like there was really, and just certain character decisions, like why, again, without spoiling anything, why a certain character might feel a way about another one when another character was completely horrible to them in one sense. There's a lot of questions, basically, that I didn't feel were answered by the end. Not that we can't really leave our interpretation to run wild, but there are just certain things that I feel like as an author, you should tie up a loose end, especially if this is not leaving it open for another. You need to kind of give us a little bit more concrete answer as to why you chose to go in that direction. That's personally speaking, I would have appreciated that from Ruth Ware. Again, this is only the second book I've read by her, and it still wasn't like one that I loved. A friend of mine actually said this was probably her favorite out of the Ruth Ware books, which, depending on how I now have told you my feelings on this, I don't know how that's gonna make me want to read another one of hers, but of course maybe down the road I'll give her another chance. But this is 2 for 2 in the I wasn't a fan, so unfortunately I can't recommend it. Again, overall, there were some noteworthy moments, but it wasn't great, and I'm not going to really recommend that you take the time to read it. I also felt like the book could have been like 30 pages shorter. I felt like it just went on and on. There were parts that continued just to expand and stretch out its plot for no reason. But that's just me. If you have read the book, I'd love to get your thoughts on this, so comment below. And if you do read it or finish it anytime soon, please let me know as well, because I'd like to get your opinion on this.